Let me ask you something. When did you become so available? So predictable, so easy to reach emotionally, physically, mentally, while he gave less and less and you still stayed? We've all been there. You start off as the high-value woman, mysterious, magnetic, and somewhere along the line you start giving more and getting less, until he's treating you like an option, and you're still trying to prove you're the prize. It's time to flip the script. This isn't about games. This is about gravity. You pulling your energy back so hard, so fast, that he can't help but feel the loss. Because the truth is, when you treat him like a stranger, he's gonna miss the version of you that bent over backward just to be seen. But here's the twist. He doesn't get her back. He only meets the new you, the one who knows her worth and isn't afraid to walk away. Let's talk about how to do exactly that. When someone knows they have constant access to you, your attention, your affection, your forgiveness, they stop valuing it. It's human nature. We are wired to chase what feels just out of reach, what challenges us, what we perceive as rare. That's not playing games, that's basic psychology. And when it comes to relationships, especially with men who've grown complacent, scarcity is what reignites desire. You see, when you're always there answering his texts within seconds, making yourself emotionally available even when he's distant, saying yes when you should say no, he stops needing to work for you. And when there's no effort, there's no emotional investment. It's not about being manipulative. It's about realigning the balance of effort so it reflects mutual value. That means pulling back not out of anger or spite, but out of self-respect. When you stop overextending, something powerful happens. He starts noticing the space. He starts feeling the silence. He wonders where you went, not physically, but emotionally. Where's the version of you that used to drop everything just to respond? Where's the woman who used to explain her feelings 10 different ways just to be understood? When that version fades, you become a mystery again, and mystery is magnetic. Here's the hard truth. He didn't stop appreciating you because you weren't enough. He stopped appreciating you because he thought you'd never leave. He got used to the rhythm of you always being available, always forgiving, always holding the relationship up by yourself. And just like a song you've heard too many times, he stopped listening. But when you remove that song from the playlist, when you step away and create emotional distance, he starts craving the melody again. Scarcity doesn't mean ghosting or cutting someone off entirely. It means being intentional with your energy. If he texts at midnight after ignoring you for days, you don't respond just because you missed him. You pause. You remember that your time has value. You respond when it aligns with your standards, not your loneliness. That's how you show him you're not waiting by the phone. You're living a full life. And now if he wants to be part of it, he has to bring more than crumbs. Letting someone feel the absence of your energy isn't cruel, it's clarifying. It shows you what's real. Because a man who genuinely cares won't vanish the moment you stop chasing. He'll lean in, he'll notice the shift, and if he values you, he'll rise to meet it. If he doesn't, then all you've done is make space for someone who will. The version of you who overgave, overexplained, and overstayed isn't weak. She was just hoping love would be enough. But now you know better. You know that love without respect isn't sustainable. So you stop handing out emotional access like a free sample. You become intentional. You protect your energy. And in doing that, you create space for real connection, not just convenience. The man who once took you for granted will feel that shift. It won't be immediate. Sometimes it takes days, sometimes weeks. But eventually he'll notice the silence. He'll replay old conversations. He'll scroll back through your messages, trying to pinpoint the moment he lost the version of you who gave endlessly. And by then, if you've done the work, you won't be waiting. You'll be evolving. And he'll realize, maybe too late, that the old you is gone. Your energy is your most valuable asset. It's not just your time, it's your attention, your care, your emotional investment. And the harsh truth is, we often spend that energy on people who haven't earned it. We give our best, our love, our softness, our loyalty to someone who gives us inconsistency, excuses, and bare minimum effort. The problem isn't that we care too much, it's that we don't always stop to ask ourselves, is this person actually investing in me the way I'm investing in them? In a relationship, especially one that's slipping, it's easy to fall into the trap of proving your worth. You think that if you just show up more, love harder, stay patient, and wait longer, he'll eventually see your value and reciprocate. But relationships aren't built on hope, they're built on action. And when your energy isn't being met with equal effort, you're not building a partnership, you're building a fantasy. The danger is subtle. You start adjusting your standards to fit his comfort. You accept half-hearted messages. You tolerate long silences. You justify the lack of commitment by clinging to moments of connection. And every time you do that, you teach him that your love doesn't require effort, that your time isn't sacred, that you're available no matter how little he gives. It's not about blaming him, it's about taking responsibility for how you're allowing yourself to be treated. Think about how you act when you really value something. A new job, a dream opportunity, a friend you admire. You show up, you prepare, you're thoughtful. That's what real investment looks like. So ask yourself, is he doing that for you? Or are you the only one showing up with both hands open while he offers you crumbs with a shrug? This isn't about punishing him or playing hard to get. It's about protecting your energy from being drained by someone who isn't contributing. Love should be a two-way flow. If you're the only one pouring into the relationship, eventually you run dry. That's not sustainable. That's emotional burnout disguised as devotion. When you start matching his energy, not his potential, not his apologies, but his actual effort, you reclaim your power. You stop chasing conversations that he wouldn't initiate. You stop overthinking every text while he sends one-word replies. You stop rearranging your life around someone who wouldn't bend theirs for you. And that shift doesn't go unnoticed. He'll feel it. Suddenly, the woman who was always there, always giving, always forgiving, she's not responding so quickly. She's not checking in just to keep the connection alive. She's focused on herself, on her peace, on her growth. And that makes him pause. Because when someone who used to over-deliver suddenly stops, it forces the other person to look in the mirror and ask, what changed? The answer? You changed. You stopped spending energy where there was no return on investment. And maybe he'll try to re-engage to test the waters and see if you'll fall back into old patterns. That's the moment you stay firm. You're not being cold, you're being clear. You're not withholding, you're just no longer overextending. You're creating space for someone who understands that real connection isn't built on convenience. It's built on consistency. So from now on, protect your energy like it's gold. Because it is. Give it to people who value it, who nurture it, who reciprocate with real effort. Don't waste it on someone who's comfortable letting you carry the emotional weight alone. Because when you stop spending your energy on the wrong person, you create the space for the right one to show up. Or even better, you create space for yourself to finally feel full without needing anyone else to complete you. There's a version of you he got used to, the one who always showed up no matter how poorly he treated you. The one who kept trying even when it was clear he stopped making an effort. That version of you became his safety net. She was reliable, predictable, and easy to fall back on. But the problem with being someone's emotional safety net is that they stop valuing you and start expecting you. They don't have to earn your presence, they assume it. And when that happens, the entire dynamic shifts. Love turns into entitlement. He didn't stop caring because you weren't lovable. He stopped caring because he felt safe that you weren't going anywhere, no matter how little he gave. Familiarity can kill urgency. And once he believed you were locked in, that you'd always be available, always forgive, always wait, he stopped trying. Why would he chase something he's certain he can keep just by doing the bare minimum? But here's the truth. The version of you that allowed that dynamic wasn't the real you. She was just trying to hold on to love. She thought that being loyal meant being limitless. She confused being kind with being endlessly tolerant. And now you're starting to see how that version of you was slowly eroding your self-respect. It's not about flipping a switch and becoming cold overnight. It's about realizing you've given someone VIP access to your heart without requiring them to show up as someone who truly deserves it. The old you would have explained, reasoned, justified. She would have written long texts hoping he'd finally understand. But the new you doesn't explain, you observe. You watch what he gives and match it. If he pulls away, you don't chase. If he stops trying, you don't try harder to make up the difference. You don't yell, cry, or beg. You create space. And that space is where respect starts to rebuild. People treat you based on what you allow. So when you draw that line not with drama but with clarity, he feels the difference. Suddenly you're not there at his convenience. You're not emotionally available on demand. And that creates contrast. Contrast is what makes people wake up. It's what makes them feel the difference between what they had and what they've lost. That's when he starts to notice that the woman who once gave everything is now protecting her energy. And if he wants back in, it's no longer going to be free. Boundaries are not about punishment, they're about self-worth. The new you isn't bitter, she's just aware. She's done confusing comfort with love. She understands that someone who truly values her will be uncomfortable losing her and will act accordingly. If he doesn't, then all you've done is stop wasting your energy on someone who was never really trying in the first place. This transformation doesn't require loud declarations. You don't need to tell him you've changed. He'll feel it when his old tricks stop working. When he reaches out and you are not instantly available. When he pushes and you don't bend, that's when he'll start to miss the version of you he once overlooked. But he doesn't get her back because she doesn't exist anymore. She evolved. And here's what's powerful. You didn't change to make him chase you. You changed because you finally saw the cost of giving your best to someone who didn't appreciate it. You outgrew the role of the woman who carries the emotional load alone. You stopped showing up as a backup plan for someone who never had a real plan for you. And in doing so, you stepped into the version of yourself that never has to beg, prove, or settle again. Mystery isn't about playing games or being emotionally distant just to provoke a reaction. It's about recognizing the power of self-respect and emotional independence. So many people confuse mystery with manipulation, but true mystery comes from knowing your value so deeply that you no longer feel the need to overexpose your heart to someone who hasn't earned that kind of access. When you stop over-explaining yourself, when you stop constantly proving how much you care, you naturally become more mysterious, not because you're hiding. In the early stages of connection, mystery is what sparks attraction. It's that sense of curiosity, the idea that there's more to discover. But over time, especially in situations where the other person begins to pull away or give less, many people instinctively do the opposite of creating space. They start oversharing, overanalyzing, over-pursuing. They start offering emotional explanations in the hopes that being fully open will reignite something. But vulnerability without boundaries isn't intimacy, it's exposure. And when someone isn't reciprocating, that kind of exposure doesn't draw them in, it pushes them further away. There's power in restraint. You don't have to say everything you feel in the moment it comes up. You don't have to keep justifying your emotions. When someone pulls back, the most impactful response is not to fill the silence with more noise, it's to allow the silence to exist. Because silence tells a story, it communicates confidence. It says, I'm not afraid of losing you, I'm not going to chase you into caring. When you stop making yourself emotionally available to someone who isn't offering real connection, you become intriguing again. You become the person they can quite figure out, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're no longer making it easy for someone to coast in and out of your life. That shift changes everything. It signals to him that you've stopped operating from a place of need and started moving from a place of choice. And that's where the real magnetism lies. You don't need to withdraw your love, you just stop offering it in places where it's not honored. You stop asking for reassurance from someone who doesn't provide it. You stop explaining your worth because people who see your value won't need a speech. They'll feel it in how you carry yourself. They'll feel it in the boundaries you hold. The moment you stop over-communicating your disappointment and instead allow your actions to reflect your standards, you create a new energy. You no longer feel compelled to convince him that your love is good enough. You become someone who allows others to reveal who they are without interference, and you act accordingly based on what they show you. That's the kind of presence that commands respect without demanding it. He'll feel the change even if you don't say a word. He'll notice when you don't reach out first. He'll notice when your replies become more intentional and less eager. He'll notice when you stop offering emotional intimacy as a way to pull him closer. That subtle withdrawal of access makes space for him to step up or for him to fall away. Either way, it gives you clarity. And clarity is more valuable than closeness when the closeness isn't built on effort. You don't need to shut down or become cold. You just need to protect the parts of yourself that used to be an open book for someone who wasn't even reading. You stop handing over your heart like it's a gift to be accepted on a whim. You recognize that not everyone is meant to understand you, and that's okay. The right person won't need every detail up front. They'll be willing to lean in slowly to earn your openness. Until then, let your silence speak. Let your boundaries do the talking. Because when you stop making yourself so easy to reach, the right ones will rise to the challenge and the wrong ones will reveal themselves without you lifting a finger. Just because someone had access to a softer, more forgiving version of you in the past doesn't mean they get automatic access to you now. Familiarity is not permission. Just because he's seen you vulnerable, seen you in love, seen you fight for the relationship, doesn't mean he has earned the right to step back into your life whenever it suits him. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is realizing that access to you isn't based on history, it's based on how someone shows up today. When someone has had a front row seat to your heart, it's easy for them to assume they still have that place reserved. They believe they can text you after weeks of silence, show up when it's convenient, and expect the old dynamic to magically resume. But relationships aren't time machines. If someone failed to protect the version of you they once had, they don't automatically get to revisit her. That part of you existed under specific conditions they helped break. He might remember the way you used to light up when he walked in the room. How you dropped everything when he needed you. How you forgave the missed calls, the slow replies, the broken promises. He remembers a version of you that gave more chances than you should have. That loved him even when he didn't deserve it. And now when he tries to slide back in, he's hoping that woman is still there, still available, still open, still willing to overlook the same things. But she's not. And that realization has to come not through your words, but through your actions. When you stop reacting to old patterns, when you stop giving automatic replies and emotional access, you're no longer reinforcing the idea that history earns loyalty. You're setting a new standard, one that says, if you want to be close to me now, you have to meet me where I am, not where I was. It's easy to confuse nostalgia with connection. He might miss the comfort, the attention, the way you made him feel important. But missing someone doesn't equal readiness to do better. Missing the benefits of you without respecting the boundaries of the new you is a form of entitlement. And you are not obligated to entertain someone just because they once mattered. Growth means learning to love people from a distance when closeness comes at the cost of your peace. It's not about cutting him off harshly. It's about being firm with yourself, recognizing that the old dynamic cost you more than it gave you, that the old you spent too much time proving your worth to someone who didn't fully see it. The new you isn't playing hard to get. She's harder to access because she's learned the cost of being too available to the wrong person. You don't owe him a chance just because he remembers a version of you that once made him feel safe. Let him miss her. Let him wonder what changed. Let him feel the loss, because if you've truly grown, you won't need him to validate that growth. He'll see it in the way you protect your time, in the way you no longer rush to reply, in the calm confidence you carry when you no longer need his attention to feel secure. You've earned your peace, you've earned your boundaries, and most importantly, you've earned the right to say you don't get to come back just because you once had me. That's not being harsh, it's being honest. Because when someone doesn't take care of what they had, they lose the privilege of having it again. When someone starts pulling away or treating you as if you are optional, the natural impulse is to try harder, to prove your worth, to remind them of what they're losing. You send longer messages, make more effort, show up stronger, softer, more available. You chase the version of the relationship you want, believing that if you just love better, try harder, or stay longer, you'll get him to come back around. But in doing that, you end up abandoning the very thing that would have changed everything, your own self-worth. You don't need to chase anyone who isn't choosing you. And more importantly, you don't need to convince someone to see what's already valuable. That's the mistake so many people make. You lower your standards just to keep the connection alive. You ignore your own needs because you're afraid that enforcing them will drive him further away. You accept less than you deserve because somewhere deep down you're hoping that if you are easy enough to love, he won't leave. But here's the truth, people don't stay because you make it easy. They stay because they respect you. And respect is earned when you hold your ground, when you stop begging for effort and start expecting it. When you level up, emotionally, mentally, energetically, you stop trying to fit into a relationship that doesn't serve you. You stop shrinking yourself to stay in rooms where you were meant to outgrow the conversation. The woman who constantly chases ends up feeling resentful, exhausted, and unseen. But the woman who levels up, she becomes magnetic, not because she's cold or detached, but because she knows her worth and doesn't need validation from someone who can't show up consistently. Her energy says, I know who I am, and if you can't meet me there, I'm not coming down to remind you. That's the shift. You stop trying to get the old version of him back and you focus on getting the best version of you back, not the version that tolerated disrespect or over-explained every feeling, but the version who knows her standards and won't lower them to be chosen. That's the woman he remembers, and that's the woman he'll chase if he has any sense left. But by then, if you've done the work, it won't even be about him anymore. When you stop chasing, you don't just become unavailable, you become powerful. Not in a performative, look how much I don't care kind of way. You become powerful because you've redirected all that energy you once gave to convincing someone else back into yourself. Your confidence grows, your peace returns. You no longer settle for text breadcrumbs and half-effort plans because you're finally full on your own. You're not looking for someone to rescue you from loneliness. You're looking for someone to match your wholeness. That's where things really shift. Because when you level up, you naturally filter out anyone who isn't doing the same. He'll feel that. He'll realize that the access he once had is no longer available. That the dynamic has changed not because you're angry, but because you've evolved. If he still wants in, it's going to require more than charm and nostalgia. It's going to require actual effort, accountability, growth. But by the time he circles back asking what happened or trying to reconnect with the version of you that made it so easy, he may find that she no longer exists. She outgrew waiting. She stopped needing closure. She found peace in herself. And that's the goal, not to get him back, but to get yourself back, not to return to who you were, but to rise into who you were always meant to become. You don't get your power back by waiting for him to change. You get it back by changing the way you show up, by no longer overgiving, by no longer explaining, by no longer offering loyalty to someone who hasn't earned your trust. The truth is, the old you made it too easy. You made excuses, carried the weight, filled in the gaps. You loved with your whole heart even when he gave you half of his attention. And that woman, though strong and loving, was tired. She was exhausted from trying to fix something that wasn't broken because of her. So now you treat him like a stranger, not out of hate, not out of bitterness, but because you finally remembered who you are. You're no longer handing out access like it's a gift for the past. You're requiring presence, effort, and growth in the present. And here's the twist. The moment you stop needing him to see your worth, that's the moment he'll start seeing it. That's when he feels the loss. That's when the begging begins. But by then, you won't be looking back, because this journey was never about him missing the old you. It was always about you becoming someone you'd never lose again.